Meeting to order. And you want to go ahead and do roll?
Mary Jo Wheeler-Schuler,
Present.
Ken Bargender, Tom Budke,
Present.
Lyle Lang,
Yeah, here, yes.
John Tracy, Andrew Reigel,
Present.
Russ Stauber,
Here.
Paul Kapla.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Item number 2 on the agenda, approval of minutes, July 13th, 2023. I have a motion. Okay. Second.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 3, identify potential conflicts of interest. Please be advised that per city policy 3.340, any member of the body shall declare conflict if there is any interest, financial or otherwise, direct or indirect, or engaged in a business or transaction or professional activity, or incur an obligation of any nature that is a conflict with the proper discharge of the body's official duties. Any conflicts of interest? Okay, moving on. Item number 4, citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? 2? Sounds good. The lady in the back, if you want to identify yourself.
My name is
Oh, can you please step forward? It's all right, it's early.
Just activates the microphone.
Okay. Really loud, so I hope I'm not too loud.
In the audio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just identify yourself.
So my name is Heather Wellick. I am a member of the Central Wisconsin State Fair Board, and I'm also the Junior Fair Board President.
Okay.
Okay, I might read this kind of fast because I do believe I have a limited amount of time, correct?
She have a limited.
5 minutes.
Oh, I practiced this in almost 3, so we can slow it down a bit. All right. So good morning. My name is Heather Wellick. I'm a member of the Central Wisconsin State Fair Board. I'm here to express a concern and a distress regarding the false accusations and untrue declarations that have been made about Dale Christensen and the Central Wisconsin State Fair Board. These accusations have come before the City Council, the Economic Development Board, and the Wood County Board of Supervisors, as well as the Fair Commission. We believe it is crucial to address this matter promptly to protect the reputation and integrity of the valuable nonprofit organization within our community and its director. The Central Wisconsin State Fair has been under the direction of Dale Christensen for 7 years. When Dale took over, the fair was in deep debt, had tarnished reputations with vendors and exhibitors. The office records were in shambles and contracts were so poorly written that there was no way to uphold the promises that were made by the previous director. As a board, we worked with Dale to support him in rewriting contracts, establishing guidelines, and building a reputation of honesty and working within the community to become a pillar, consistently striving to make a positive impact in the lives of our residents. At one point, it was said that we have a fair association. There is no longer a fair association. Dale is under the employment of the Fair Board. Our job is to oversee the fair and the events that happen at the fairgrounds with Dale as the director. Our budget and spending are based on money that we make from events, the fair, and through donation. The city was not asked for any money for the fair except to help with the buildings that are under their ownership. The job of the commission is to handle the buildings and be aware of the condition and repairs that need to be made. That has been done by our Buildings and Grounds Committee as well. In the last 7 years, we've had one county representative that was on the board for 5 years. His main concern was the junior fair, I appreciate that, and known for making motions to adjourn the meetings. The second county rep showed up to the meetings, however, he was hostile at times and had never been to the fair before. The present county representative, I am happy to announce, is attending all meetings and has been an asset to our board. We're excited for his input and value what he brings to the table. We've had 4 city representatives. Brian Varsho showed up for approximately half of the meetings 2 years ago. I'm happy to report Derek Werman, our current representative, has showed up to all meetings. He's working to help communicate with the city, and that's another positive improvement. The next few statements to address the false accusations made at your last economic meeting, which I noticed are in the recording online, but not part of the physical minutes that were approved this morning. We have a signed contract for the parish pull and have a signed letter of intent to continue that event at the fairgrounds for the next 3 years. It was stated that the fur trappers left based off of Dale Christensen, and that is false as well. The contract was not renewed because of the behavior of the trappers, as well as the condition that the fairgrounds were left in when they leave for consecutive years in a row. That had a huge financial impact on the fair. The Central Wisconsin Fair is responsible for the electric during the fair, and we have electricians on call during that time. Under the direction of the board, the campground we own was fixed for the dog show. We're happy to report that that went well. Under Dale Christensen's direction, we have established a consistent upward climb in our attendance. 30,000 when he started to 55K, over 55,000 people over the 5-day event. We are increasing our numbers in open class and youth exhibitors. We've increased exhibitors in our commercial buildings. We have 2 full buildings now, and even outside vendors. The food vendors were set in May, and we have calls still coming in for vendors who are interested in being part of our event. Our entertainment is almost sold out. Our family entertainment tent is consistently adding free events for families, and this is all due to the dedication and hard work that Dale has put in. He has contacts throughout the industry and is very well regarded as well as our board fully supports and appreciate what Dale does for the Central Wisconsin State Fair. It's disheartening to hear and to witness false accusations and baseless claims being levied against Dale and the Central Wisconsin State Fair. Such actions not only harm the reputation of our organization, but also undermine the trust and support that we've earned from the community. As a concerned citizen, we must ensure that all allegations are thoroughly investigated before being taken as truth. It's our sincere hope that the Economic Development Committee would help to support and uphold the decisions of the Central Wisconsin State Fair Board and our director, as we're projected to have the most successful fair in our history. Over the next couple of weeks, we have to work very hard and diligently to finalize and implement the improvements and all the details that make the Central Wisconsin State Fair the wonderful, crowd-drawing extravaganza that it is. We need support and people to stand with us to help make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen?
Good morning. My name is Wayne Schultz. I'm a resident of town here. I have a small amount of experience with the fair. I was on the fair board and junior fair board for about 16 years. I was president of the fair board for, I want to say 5 fairs. When I got on the fair board, Harry Nienaber was the general manager. Under Harry's direction, we grew our fair every single year to become the 4th largest fair in the state. We were behind State Fair, Walworth County Fair, and Wisconsin Valley Fair, and we were gaining on Wisconsin Valley. Our goal was to become the 3rd largest fair. Through the years, once my term on the board expired, I have been, and I'm not exaggerating, I have been begged to come back and be the manager of the fair. The way things have been run, and Heather, I hate to disillusion or have you make statements that the entire board backs the current manager. They don't. I have at least 2 of your current board members who have stopped at my house begging me to come and help in any way that I can. I've had my name paged on the grounds of the fair during the fair to come to the office. And when I got to the office, Nobody in the office wanted me. It was a citizen who had me paged. They pulled me aside and told me, pardon my French, what kind of a shit show he's running down there, begging me to come back and be the manager. I love this fair. My wife's family's history goes back to the 1930s, and I know you know that. Our family built Grandma's Shelter in memory of my mother-in-law in 2007. And if your Building and Grounds Committee is taking care of the buildings, they need to take a look at that building because it looks awful. It needs at least $30,000 in upgrades. There's been no maintenance done on it since we dedicated it. When Dale got hired, I was in my last term on the board, and I initially thought Dale was going to be a really great asset because at that time at the State Fair Convention that winter, he was named president of the State Fair Association. And I thought, well, good, now I don't have to worry about doing this. I can step back and just go about life. And from that moment on, I have been getting calls and people stopping me. And this isn't for me to push myself. I value my summers. My wife and I love riding motorcycle around this nation, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I took over as manager. That's not my purpose for being here. I love this fair. My wife loves this fair. My entire family loves this fair. And it hurts so bad to see how this fair is being operated personally that my wife and I generally only go a couple days. I used to be there from 6 in the morning till midnight, at least every night of the fair, for nothing, for no money. Took a week of vacation, paid my dues as a Fair Association member, and I've got a lot of ideas on how things could be turned around, but that would involve me getting directly back involved again. And I'm, at this point, I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to see our fair end, but I do want to see accountability, and I want to see things being done the way they were done back when Harry and Ron Meyer and Carol Kerper were running this thing. Yeah, we lost money some years, but usually it was due to weather. But we had a wonderful fair. One time we had a food court over near the horse arena. We've lost the horse arena. That used to be a huge draw because we changed the dates of our fair. So all these horse show people now go to Minnesota, to the state fair over there, because our fair is during Minnesota State Fair. We used to have the largest horse show in the state of Wisconsin, bigger than State Fair. And now we have nothing other than the horse pull and the hitch classes. And it's really sad. It's very sad to see how our fair has deteriorated under Dale's so-called leadership. With that, I'll end it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Any other citizen comments? Citizen comment?
Tom is not a citizen. You should wait for board comment. There's a section for board member comments, though, on the agenda.
All right, item number 5, chairperson's comments. So, as Chair of Economic Development Marshfield, I stand before you today with a mixture of frustration and disappointment. Our city and community have shared goals that unite us, but unfortunately, it seems we have become divided on a crucial aspect of the economic potential of this community, and that's the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds hold immense promise for economic development, and I'm talking the fairgrounds, not the fair itself. It has the power to attract visitors, stimulate local businesses, and promote opportunities for growth. However, it's disheartening to witness the lack of cooperation and transparency by parties involved, particularly the current fair manager. I was at the commission meeting on Monday, and he's refusing to turn over his budget. Transparency is the cornerstone of good governance. It fosters trust, accountability, and ensures the decisions are made. Can't talk this morning, sorry, not enough coffee. Ensures the decisions are made in the best interest of the community and the taxpayers that hold us accountable. Yet it is with great disgust that I've discovered the lack of leadership and transparency displayed with the current fair manager in managing the fairgrounds finances. This is not a personal attack. It is a call for action. Our community deserves better. We deserve a fair manager who understands the importance of open communication, who values the trust placed in them, and who consistently works towards the betterment of the economy and development of our goals. We are all on the same team with the same objectives. Our shared vision for Marshfield's economic growth should be a driving force that unites us and pushes us towards success. It is time for us to come together to set aside personal agendas and differences and focus on what truly matters, the prosperity of our city. I urge all parties involved to reevaluate their priorities and commit to a higher standard of leadership and transparency. Let us work collaboratively to unlock the true potential of the fairgrounds and ensure the economic development in Marshfield becomes a reality. Thank you. Item number 6, board member comments. Tom?
Thank you, Jessica, for keeping me in line. I just wanted to mention the seed committee last week, I believe, gave out the grants, and I want to commend Steve and his staff. We got $233,000 in grants. Most of those were new ones, and that's Marshfield I'm talking about, not overall. So great job. I just want to let people know that it's not set in stone yet. The operations committee has a crack at it, and the county board itself, but normally they really don't go after those. So I just want to thank every department that went after them. I think we can even do more yet in the future. Money's there. We might as well try to get more of it. So thank you, Steve, and your staff.
Any other board comments? All right. Item number 7, 205 fund balance sheet update, if available. Steve, is it available?
Thank you. For the last 3 meetings, I think we've had them because we've had our meetings in the second week of the month. And I've been advised by our finance staff, obviously it's tough for them to get to the point to be able to produce one this early in the month. So, you know, we may be looking at a month behind. I don't really want to do that, but the financial data to produce the report you've gotten in the last 3 months is usually not available in the second or third of the month. So there really is nothing new to report over the last. In fact, I'm not sure there's been any significant activity that I'm aware of since the last report.
Okay, thank you. Item number 8, Fairgrounds Property Update, Dale Christensen, Executive Director.
Yeah, I did reach out to Dale. He did indicate to me yesterday he would not be coming. He did provide a verbal report to the council on July 25th. Maybe some of you saw it. If not, you can go back and look at it online. I think he submitted something in writing that I may have shared with you. If I didn't, I will. Just kind of updating on the status of some of the projects, electrical and otherwise, but he opted not to be here respectfully this morning. I would like to add one more thing because I know the next item doesn't include me, but Tom, thanks for your comment, but thank you for back in January or February, whenever it was, strongly encouraging the city to apply for money through the Wood County Economic Development Grants. You made a really strong pitch and we really appreciate it. We took it to heart and that's why we had so many applications, and hopefully they'll make it through the operations committee and the county board, but very grateful to you for that challenge.
Thank you. Item number 9. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I add one more question about the fairground situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, just out of curiosity. So, my understanding from last week's meeting, which I didn't care for the civility necessarily, and we were talking about people without them here to defend. I'll just make that comment. But Tom, you're on the commission, right? Do you concur with all the things that have been stated in terms of the properties just going to heck and the end of the world type thing? Or what is the commission's involvement or understanding or opinion, maybe, for lack of a better way to say it?
Sure. There's a real disconnect between the, sorry, Heather, association or whatever, board or whatever it's called now, and the commission. It was some of the things that you're talking about, Lyle, it was brought up. I can't say one way or the other how true or false some of these things are. They was presented to us. But statements were made that the Fair Commission, city and county aren't doing much for the fair. And I spoke up, I said, whoa, and they said, we didn't give any money. And I spoke up as the chairman and said, well, wait a minute, $400,000 we borrowed a while back, and that went to new roof on the round barn, expo building, grandstand, and things like that. So if that's not money, I don't know what it is. But anyways, we get $25,000 from the city and $25,000 from the county for maintenance. And one of my disappointments, for example, the round barn windows, one of the commissioners who also was on the fair board went up and stuck his finger through the wood sill on the round barns. That was never reported to us. We're not the agency to go and inspect it. There's a building and grounds, and we need to know those things because we don't have much money to spend. So we got to set priorities like we did when we borrowed the $400,000. Maintenance, grounds maintenance, or I shouldn't say maintenance, but the buildings were not very good when I started on the commission. They were in really tough shape, and that's why we borrowed the $400,000. Personally, I would like to see that again, not right now because the interest rates are going up, but I think there's a lot more to do. And at that time, we did have a list, priority list, and that's what I'm asking for now. There is a maintenance man down at the fairgrounds, and that's got to be out there. The electrical issue, that didn't just come up overnight. We weren't aware of that. It was so bad that somebody could have got electrocuted there. I mean, there was exposed wires and stuff like that. And there's a disconnect there. And as chairman, what I did get to try to get people to come together, we want to have a joint meeting with the fair board and us. We gotta, everybody's got to know we have to work together, and we will. The Fair Commission can only do what we're made aware of, and we don't like emergency things. Let's get stuff done, and so this kind of thing doesn't happen. But, I will say at for the Fair Board, I'm going to be very strong on that and say, yes, we have spent a lot of money, and we will spend money. The the county finance guy was there the other day at the Fair Commission, and we want, and we've asked for a long time to get the audit report from the Fair Board. And we were told over the years, and I've been on there for quite some time, oh yeah, we can get that. And now I was told yesterday, we're not going to give that to you because you will use it against us. So there's some things there, and I'm trying to smooth everything over so we can work together. So that's where that's at. Thank you, Lyle.
Thank you, Tom. And Lyle, to comment, he was invited at last meeting. He didn't come. There's been no answers on that. So unfortunately, when he's been invited multiple times. One thing is there's no CIP with the fair. So just a long-term plan of where things should be would be helpful. And there's a maintenance agreement between the city and the fair that he is accountable for to turn like, hey, these are the items that need to be maintained. And then that maintenance item should be brought to the commission and then given to the commission to say we need those things. And that's not being done. So no plan, no communication, no transparency. Okay.
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Lyle, to your question, I've been on the Fair Board and the Fair Commission for quite a few years, live near the fairgrounds. Now that I'm back on the council, I'm on the Fair Commission. And what I've noted, and I worked with all the names that were mentioned, Harry D. Niebuhr, Doug Schneeberger, Ron Meyer, Carol Kerper, Ed Engelhardt, Parks and Rec, kind of helped out with the capital improvement planning. And currently Dale Christensen and Justin Casperson from Parks and Rec. But what I've noticed is kind of a misunderstanding of the roles and responsibilities and relationship. Board does one thing, the commission, meeting programming, to simplify it. And the commission takes care of the grounds, with the exception of a small piece, I think, that the fairground itself owns. So we've got a lot of people coming in from the outside, not understanding the structure and the different roles. And I think that adds to the confusion. And from a timing perspective, they're geared up for the fair right now. So I think Dale's focus is making for a successful fair. Dale does report to the fair board. And as Tom mentioned, the auditor controller from county showed up at our commission meeting and was demanding, financial statements from Dale or the board. And I guess it could be debated whether that should be provided, by him to the county. But there appears to be some misunderstanding how all things work together. So it's, and regarding electrical, we kind of pay the price for the volunteerism over the years. People will volunteer to do something and someone else will volunteer to do a little bit more. And then all of a sudden the fire or the electrical inspector shows up and, shuts it down because it's not done correctly.
Generally, you get your money's worth with.
So, the volunteerism is always appreciated, but sometimes it can get a little haphazard, you know what I mean? So we've got some work to do, and I think having a good understanding of the various, bodies would help everyone involved.
Yes, Tom.
One last comment on that. I did look around the table and Gary Beimers was there representing the fair board. And I looked at all the people there and I said, I can assure you, everybody sitting here is for the fair. And I think Russ, you said it well, everybody wants to see it, but we got to get together and to talk about why the county finance guy was asking for what the financials. You got to understand, the city's putting money into this in the county. And so, I just don't understand what the big deal is. Now, personally, if I were running the fair and somebody asked me for an audit, I would say sure, because I wouldn't want that on me for people to think that devious things could happen. So hopefully we'll get there. We're going to have that joint meeting probably after the fair and go from there.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 9, request for financial assistance, Rodney Feltz, Subsidy Days Car Show. Rodney?
Just let you know as Rodney comes up, I have handed off pictures of the last car show. He's going to
Hello again, I'm Rodney Feltz, and I was invited by Mary Jo Wheeler to talk about maybe getting some financial assistance for the car show in the future. And so we thought we'll give her a shot. If I can just say a couple things about the fair. I've been building stuff in this city and around for many, many years. So we have contractors that I deal with all the time, and I know 100% would go to the fair and would inspect these buildings. And with an honest opinion, G&B Construction is like the best builder in the country. As far as going through every building to have a list that you guys could have, on your records, that's going to be something that you guys are going to know is going to be coming in, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. McMillan Electric is our gentleman I went to school with, Wayne Meyer. I guarantee I could have him come there for free and do a complete inspection so you guys would know exactly what needs to be done in the future. And I says I could definitely get you guys an inspection on every building that would not cost you guys anything. But then you would know if it's going to be 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. If that's something you guys would like, I can definitely move forward. I also invited our friend Kaylee from Main Street Marshfield. We've been working hand in hand with this car show for many years. And I brought papers along with all the stuff that we've been, the monies that we stick into this car show every year. I lost my glasses. There you go. So since, like most car shows in our area is usually about 80 to 150 cars is an average car show in central Wisconsin. Because of teaming up with the Main Street Marshfield and the Hub City Days with a great location of Central Avenue, being able to shut it down like we do, we've been able to get it up to about 700 to 800 plus cars per year, which is incredible for the state, for a small town. It's a perfect setting. I said that we have a lot of, Main Street Marshfield helps a lot with the other activities they have going on. It's an all-free show, which is really neat, so people can come there with their vehicles without paying any money for, most car shows is $8 to $10 to get in. We have a free car show. We just say bring a donation for the food banks. There's years that we have over 1,000 pounds of food to donate after it's over. We have a veterans giveaway. I buy everything from Hiller's Hardware. They give us a great deal on the tools. They throw in a lot of stuff, but it's usually about $3,000 a year that we have for the veterans. We're getting about 300 veterans sign up for the drawing every year. We see a lot of people tell us that's the way to get their dads. It's a car show a lot of people look forward to. Over the years, we're seeing a lot of people fight to get their vehicles done just to come to this car show. So it's, I go to car shows all the time. You don't see a car show like this one. Most car shows, they have their 100 cars. There's a few people walking around. These streets are packed with families. You'll never see a car show anywhere. Iola car show, the people from Iola come to our car show every year now to see how to get the kids to come. So Iola is the biggest in the United States, but they do not have the kids and the girls showing up like we do. So they're copying some of the stuff that we're doing. Last year, we worked with them, even with the sandbox. I donated toys for them. Now we're doing Power Wheels. That's the plastic cars that you drive around. I bought 15 of them. They want to also do that now. And we're going to do like a Power Wheel car show for the kids only. It's going to be some really neat stuff. Next year, we have Dennis Anderson coming again. He's the big monster truck gentleman with one of the trucks. And then he's also one of our judges. I said, let me just kind of book it out, see if I forgot anything. Yeah, like the vendors, like food vendors, when we started, we had no idea the amount of people that were going to come to this car show. So, we were really shy on a lot of the food, but a lot of the Main Street places, even like Mojo's, sold out. When you went there on Sunday, you couldn't even get any food because everything they had was gone. So now we're getting over 20 vendors here serving food. And when you talk to them, they all did good. By the end of the evening, most of them are sold out of stuff. So it's good for a lot of people. Cruise for a Cause. I talked to Dan Neves this morning. He said that he actually raised over $6,000. We do the 50-50 raffle for him. And I said, yeah, so that's it. This is the list to kind of go over some of the things that I made several copies so you guys could take a look at them. But myself, I donate a lot of the money towards it. I don't want to put a burden on Main Street and then have the car show fade away. So I kind of do things the way they were really nice every time I asked them a question, they said, you do the car show, you do it the way you want. I kind of look at things the way I would want to do them. So I spend more money than is absolutely necessary, but for some reason we're getting a lot of cars, so I just kind of continue with it. So like the Gatorades cost us like $250. The wireless speaker system we bought this year was $1,300. That needs to be upgraded a little better. It's not working as good as we thought it was gonna, but Dairy Fest Candy Parade was $280. Road signs was $412. Milwaukee tools this year was $3,400. The Milwaukee shirts were $240. Staff shirts $450. Hub City Day shirts $450. Door prizes and the kids, we always give a couple of kids bikes away. That was $495. Harbor Freight door prizes $750. Some flyers were $30. The Power Wheels I bought was $4,500 this year. I think kids' toys was 250, so the total I spent on my pocket this year is just out of Phelps Tire is actually $13,000 this year. On an average, I like to spend about 6,000 to 7,000. We do use it as a, a write-off for our business for the advertising, but eventually, if I want to start stepping down and retiring, it's going to be a lot harder to do that amount of money. We can collect quite a bit, but I said it's still quite a bit. It's a big effort. So as far as Main Street Marshfield, they have a lot of stuff involved. They do all the porta potties and everything else. But the dash plaques is another $500. The cost of the programs is $2,000 plus. The 2,500 flyers we give out is $250. Trophies is $2,600. Like the trophies, we have people brag about our trophies. We always try to come up with really cool trophies. A lot of these car shows, you get this little 3-inch trophy that's, you lose it in your just in your glove box in your car. This one you're not going to lose very fast. When you leave, you're proud of this trophy. So I have another list of things that, even down the road, if there's a possibility of getting some help with, it's a list of, just like advertising. It's hard for us so it's, when we do this car show every year, it's my son Dusty, my daughter comes back from New York. She helps for a month, so she gets out of grad school and got permission. So we've been lucky every year that she comes and helps us for a month, and also my wife just to organize the car show alone. Main Street Marshfield is available for help, but it's easier for us to do it since we've been doing it. So anytime we have questions, they are very good with us, but it's still. So I just have a list of all little jobs that maybe down the road, if, they were saying that there was a possibility of people help or, some donate or, some funds for the car show would be much, much appreciated. So I do have a list of all these stuff I can leave here. I have one of the dash plaques too that we have. I'll leave here too, so you guys can kind of take a look at what what kind of stuff that we spend money on. Not all car shows do it, but it's muchly appreciated by all shows. So, do you have any questions or? Is that? Yep. So, if you guys have any other questions, and I have.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you for coming. This car show has really grown into, it's mini Iola.
Yeah.
And what you bring to the community is huge. I wanted to reach out to you, see, it's not just financial, but it's people help and to work together with the different organizations. I think it's important for us. You were here, Kaylee, last meeting asking for funds, and I want to make sure that it's on top of mind what he brings to the community and making sure that it's not just financial, but it's also people help that we can maybe do for him as well. You had told me you clean the streets. So those little things, maybe working, just that everybody's aware, this guy puts his heart and soul into this car show, and the longevity of this, when Rodney moves on, we want to keep this going so that we have a future plan of all the stuff that he's done and how we can keep this successful and growing. So
Even cleaning the streets, is that you don't even realize it when you're driving down Main Street, but every year since, I think this is our 8th or 9th year of doing it. If you go down Central, you do not realize that nobody, the business owners, that own the buildings, they rent them, so it should be the renters cleaning the streets, but they're not. So when I go down there, I weed eat. So I went and weed eated all the streets. A lot of the weeds are dead, but they're still up to a foot tall, sticking out dead weeds. When people are sitting on the street in their lawn chairs, you don't want to be looking at dead weeds. So I weed eat the whole street, then I take a blower and I blow it all off. It takes 4 hours to blow that Main Street off. So it's a big job, but it does look good, but it's the one time a year it gets really cleaned up really nice. So, and it's all good. And I says, I don't mind definitely doing that, but it says I'm so busy with our business in Texas. Like this year was extremely difficult to get everything done. So you really run your hinders off, so.
thank you. Russ?
I would echo Mary Jo's comments. Well done.
Thank you.
So I'm just trying to get my head around the numbers. So you contributed $13,000.
This year was $13,000 because we bought the Power Wheels, but the Power Wheels are going to be good for many, many years.
Sure. And Main Street, what's your cost in it?
6,000 to 7,000.
6,000 to 7,000.
Just for the car show alone.
Okay. And grand total then, is that it, the 13 plus the 6,000 to 7,000? And then you're paying out through donations. I don't know, do you measure that? How much you're giving to the vets organization and food pantry? Food pantry, I think you gave us a number, $1,000 or something.
1,000 pounds.
Yeah, 1,000 pounds. So that's all pretty impressive. And what comes to mind for me, and I appreciate you wanting to, go into your sunset and hand off. What comes to mind for me is, a grassroots program or event like this turning into something sustainable and something that could be handed off and managed by, this is where I'm not sure. Is it managed by Main Street Marshfield in the future? Is there someone else that's going to be taking over the car show? And if so, how can we project, we talked about capital improvements earlier and a lack of, in some people's opinion, but, project the future needs and how we can properly manage this so he can be an attendee instead of an organizer.
Yeah. My daughter even mentioned that she's going to take over.
Oh,
Yeah, and over the last couple of years, I'm always the go-to person, so I'm going a million directions, getting everybody lined up. And there's so many vendors and people that come late that we're trying to make sure there's a lot of handicapped people or elderly people that we just try to get into a better spot so they don't have to walk as far. Well, now it's my daughter. They're calling my daughter actually more than I am because she's like the go-to person. So I think we could, we'll be able to help for many, 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 many years, even if we're not, it's just the financial part of what I'm doing. I wouldn't mind stepping down a little bit less, in the next, 4 or 5 years. At least.
And I think it behooves us to capture all these little things that Rodney's been doing, removing dead weeds that are a foot tall, and that little kind of thing goes a long way.
I would help a ton.
So thanks again.
Thank you very much.
First of all, Rodney, thank you for what you do. It's very impressive. I would like to see us, I think probably we have to go through Main Street's budget for Hub City Days and put something in there for the car show because it's just a huge attraction. So I think that's what we should be looking at. The amount, I'm not sure, but we have to designate something so this continues.
I'd also like to see Main Street and maybe Mackey work together on a long-term plan to how to continue it so it's sustainable and be able to help them. Any other comments? Thank you, Rodney, for coming. All right, item number 10 on the agenda, request to increase the asking price for business industrial land effective January 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Well, for a long, long time, long before I came here back in 2011, the city has advertised its business and industrial park land for $10,000 an acre. And the goal, of course, is to get companies out there. We have many, many times over the years actually refunded the purchase price of the land if we got the development we were looking for, the number of jobs, the tax base, those types of things, the reason we went into developing the land in the first place. Recently, we had a prospect that we were talking with. They ultimately made another decision elsewhere in the community, which is great. They found a piece of land that works better for them. But as part of it, we got an evaluation from the city assessor that indicated to us that the land out there in Yellowstone Industrial Park really should be valued at more like $19,000 an acre, and to reflect the current market. And that would seem to apply from talking with him to business parkland as well. So it appears we've fallen below what the typical real market value of our industrial land is. So the request here is to look at increasing the asking price for our business and industrial land to $20,000 an acre. We recognize in doing so that we would continue to use the ongoing practice of being willing to look at refunding part or all of the purchase price upon completion of a development when someone puts up the improvement that they're contemplating. If it provides the tax base and or the jobs that we're looking for, that we'd be willing to do that, as has been past practice. Given the fact that I know Josh Miller's been working with us from Cedar Corp, and we've been having conversations with a couple of people who are currently working on potential developments, we'd like to not put this into effect until January 1 of 2024 to allow those processes a chance to work through since the $10,000 asking price has been the status quo for quite a while. But we'd like to get that in progress and get that set up for the first of the year. So I brought this to the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee of the city, which is made up of half of the City Council. On Tuesday night, they were supportive. My intent is to bring it to the council next Tuesday night for their consideration, but I wanted to run it by this board and see if there's support as well, or if there's questions or concerns about the prospect of increasing the asking price for our business and industrial parkland.
Go ahead, Tom. Tom? Yep.
Thank you. I looked this over, Steve, and actually, I'm not in favor of this. And because we're not there to, I don't want to say make money, but it's about getting businesses and industries in our park, and how you get the money back is through taxes. I understand that it's outdated, and stuff, but I don't want to have it a deterrent for people not to come, because if we went from $10,000 an acre to, and now it's 20,000, that's a big jump.
It is. Keep in mind that we put in, street, sewer, water, storm sewer, detention ponds, whatever we've had to do to make it developable. And we're trying to recoup our investment. Admittedly, our two TIF districts, 5 and 7, are doing well, and 5 is expected to close in 2024. So it's not like we're failing. But I think, Tom, to answer your question, in probably 90% of the cases, we would be looking at refunding the purchase price. But what we're doing by setting the price is we're saying this is the true value of the land. If you want to come and buy 3 or 4 acres, for example, hypothetically, and you want to put something up, and maybe it's not everything we're looking for, it's not going to produce a lot of jobs, it's going to be a limited tax base. We want to see you come. We want to see you fill up that industrial park, but we're probably not going to give you a lot of incentives for it. And in that case, maybe you should be paying, the purchase price or the lion's share of it without a refund. But again, most of those developments you look at the PCAs of the world that we've gotten out there, Dental Crafters and others, we're very likely going to refund that purchase price as part of the development agreement. But we are staking our claim in the fact that this is, again, the market value in 2023 of that land. That's the intent.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just don't want to scare anybody away, Hey, it gets out there, hey, Marshfield doubled what they're getting, and you guys know better than I, and second of all, I don't have a vote on it anyway, but that's my only concern. I'm not against a raise, but and Karen may know more about that too, if that's going to be a deterrent or not. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. And so to finish my comments, I'd be looking for, if the board is supportive, I'd be looking for a motion to recommend council approval to increase the asking price of our business and industrial park land to $20,000 an acre. If you're not, then so be it. Then I'll take that back as part of what I tell the council when they consider this on Tuesday night.
I'd like to make a motion to approve that.
I just had a question, Steve. Did you have comparables from other communities, surrounding communities, what their industrial park rates are looking like? Stevens Point, Rapids, et cetera?
I have not gotten that, and I imagine that's probably something that they probably would give. Although oftentimes cities and villages are pretty close to the vest about their policies for how they operate with TIF and how they refund or don't refund purchase prices. But I imagine they're
about any of the refunds. I'm just talking about
the asking. I have not checked on their asking prices. That's a good question, John, and I can maybe do that before council consideration on Tuesday night. That's a very good question. You have to realize that when we set 10,000 an acre, I said I came here in 2011, and it's been longer than that. So we're looking at, at least 13 years or more, but still a very valid question.
I would like to second that motion.
All those in favor?
Well, hold on.
Yep.
We got a motion, a second, and then discussion. So I agree. I think we need to have comparables to other industrial parks. And I hear Tom, but I also realize that the price per acre is often negotiated. I'm thinking just the opposite. I'm thinking we've got some jewels out there right now with the current residents or current facilities. And to me, that increases. I would have no problem even putting a $30,000 price on an acre. If you really want to be part of the Marshfield business park and have your building next to Dental Crafters and Prevention Genetics, you're in a different league. So I would be interested to know what the comparables are, but I have no problem going above 20,000. So I support the motion. But,
go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm probably going to echo Mr. Stauber's thoughts too. First of all, updating it to the current standard as opposed to an outdated price.
If I'm looking at a set of property and it comes in at half the price that it's asking for, I'm kind of asking questions of what's wrong with it. Even if it comes back without anything wrong with it, I'm going, okay, they might know something I don't. Secondly, it gives us more bargaining power. I mean, we come in at 20,000, we can go down to giving the company 20,000 instead of only giving them 10,000. And then thirdly, and probably just as importantly, is that in today's day and age with the inflation, and I didn't do the math, so I don't know if that 9,000 to today's value actually covers inflation in and of itself, but it gives them more incentive to complete any conditions that's set on the reimbursement of the sale price. Some companies might agree to, if it's only 10,000, agree to set conditions and then realize, you know what, I'm not going to do it. We'll just pay the 10,000 and be done with it. Whereas the 20,000 might hurt a little bit more and incentivize them more to complete those agreements that they've made.
If I can add to that, I agree with all the comments that Andrew just made. And just speaking to the first one about the value of the land, I mean, we are pursuing certified site status right now for the industrial park, where we're trying to tell the world that we are truly ready for development. I think too low a price would indicate that, why are you selling it for 5,000 or 10,000 an acre if it's supposed to be quality development property? And as far as the price, again, going back to the idea of comparables, which are always a good idea, I really was resting heavily on the assessor telling me, I mean, and the current assessor we have, Steve Shepro, is also the assessor for the cities of Wisconsin Rapids and Stevens Point. He does assessing for all three, so he knows what else is out there. And his assertion that it's really should be twice what it is right now, whatever we do in terms of deciding to reduce or not reduce the price is up to us. That's kind of what I was resting on and bringing it to the body.
We have a motion, a second. Any more discussion?
Can I ask what the motion is for? I've lost that through this whole process.
It's a motion to approve them, to go to council with the increase,
To go to the council?
with the increase. That's what he was looking for. Any other discussion? No?
Okay, you guys talked me into it.
You're easy. Let's hope the next tenant's that easy, huh?
Yeah, there you go. And Steve, that was good that you mentioned about the assessor talking about sort of the other communities. So that's what really swayed me. So I'll be supporting it.
I should have started that with my opening comments. He knows Central Wisconsin because he does assessing for those other communities. At the same time, he does our work.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on, item number 11, review and discuss the interior conversion component of the facade grant program.
Thank you. Back in May, when we talked about the facade grant program and the applications that we were hopefully going to get for this year, and I'll touch on that in updates where we stand in that one, but it came up about the fact that there is a separate component of the facade grant program for interior conversions. This was not in the initial facade grant program as adopted back in the early part of the last decade, but was added a few years ago. When the facade grant program was started back in, I think, 2012 or somewhere around there, what was it? Oh, was that? Oh, okay, thank you. The intention was, I think, largely from what I've been able to glean, and it was tied to TIF District 4 downtown, but to improve the exteriors of buildings, very important. You want your downtown to look sharp, to give the appearance of a vibrant downtown that people want to come to and invest in, but also to increase the tax base. And that by some of these improvements that were done, we're looking to see the assessed value of the properties go up. So a few years back, it was thought that maybe we could add an interior conversion component, because if you take a building and do work on the inside, you can clearly attract businesses of certain types that you're looking for, and you can also increase the tax value of the building significantly. We saw that, I think, in the facade grant that we approved earlier this year. But the concern was raised at the May meeting by, I think, several members of this body. Is that really what we want to be doing? Is that really where we want to be putting our facade money to do interior work, as opposed to the visible work that maybe gives the exterior appearance of our downtown that we're trying to strive for? So I would suggest, from my point of view, that both encourage private development because they're matching grants. So they bring in leveraged money from the business community, and that the interior conversion program component, like the facade grant for exterior work, also increases the value of buildings and makes business more vibrant in our downtown. But like I said, we agreed to talk about this when the facade grant application deadline passed, which it has now, to see whether or not we want to continue the interior conversion portion of this program.
Russ?
Steve, thanks for the presentation. A question, how do you think we could throttle the demand for the funds if you've got, for example, one potential candidate that comes forward and wants both facade enhancement and an interior enhancement depletes our resources, or, maybe they close their doors after 2 years and we're left hanging. Have you given any thought to how we might control supporting both interior and exterior?
Well, this year we allocated $70,000 total, and that's for both the facade, exterior work and the interior conversions. So far, we've awarded $40,000. That was for the property on East Fourth. So we have $30,000 that's not been expended, and I'm going to report to you in a moment. I might as well say it now. We didn't get another application by the July 19th deadline, so we still have $30,000 sitting out there for 2023 allocation. But if we'd gotten multiple, and you were sitting here in this body saying, well, gosh, we got these two to improve the exterior. We've wanted to see these buildings have a better front facing for a while, but we've got this application or these two that would improve the interior of the building and perhaps bring a restaurant, perhaps bring a use that we're looking for. How do we know which way to go? I think you'd have to determine what's the better value ultimately for the community. They both, even if the business goes out, if you've improved the front facing or if you've improved the interior to make it a more viable business setting, you've increased the tax value and you've also provided the opportunity for future business to go there and thrive there. I can tell you this building on East 4th Street needed a lot of work on the interior, no matter who is going to occupy it. So even if that business that you were presented with back in May were to leave, that building is now better suited for business development than it was at the beginning of the year. So I think it'd be a political decision, really a business decision, Russ, about what the best bang for the buck is if you had to weigh an interior conversion project against a typical facade grant project.
If I could follow up on that, what I'm trying to avoid also is spending for the sake of spending. We've got excess $30,000, someone comes forward and you know what, we didn't have any other applicants, so therefore let's maybe lower our standards a little bit and do something that we, next go around might have had a higher contender with better use of the funds. I'm trying to avoid that as well.
Well, and I don't recall, and maybe Josh and Kaylee know better than I do, whether part of the impetus for the interior conversion portion was because we simply were not getting enough grant applications for the fund. So we had money left over at year end that we were hoping to get into productive use. But we've carried those monies forward before, I think, working with our finance department. I would encourage you to spend something at the end of the year just to get it off the books. If you don't think it's a viable project or that it won't leverage business investment or create better tax base. I mean, I feel free to say no, even if the monies are going to sit there for a while.
Either. Tom?
Thank you. I'm okay with the interior, but I think the priority should be the exterior because that's, and Kaylee gone? Oh, sorry. But that was how that was set up to improve the look for downtown, to attract people to our downtown. And I think that should be, if there's competitive, where somebody wants to do interior versus the exterior, I think the exterior should go first and take it from there because, like I said, I mean, the appearance is the main thing. And I'm not against the project that we did, and I do remember when I was on this board, it was mentioned about interior as well. They're both good, but I think the priority should be on the outside.
And I don't think you're alone in that. I mean, people who aren't familiar with their community when they come downtown are going to make a decision about whether they want to shop there based upon what they see. So I would never minimize exterior improvements.
Go ahead.
Steve, thank you for the information. I certainly appreciate it. I stated before, and I'm just going to reiterate what I think about the interior side of this thing. So I've heard it said in previous meetings, and I think I heard it just right now, that part of this was driven by the fact that we didn't have enough applicants. So to me, we're looking at public funds here. To me, that's a very interesting way of doing things. Like, we don't have enough need for the money, so let's figure out a way to spend the money. I think that from a responsibility standpoint of using public funds, that doesn't make any sense to me in terms of if that's what's driving this. I fear with the interior that we're going to paint ourselves into a corner here. So as an example, and we can look at this in extremes and you say, Mary Jo has talked about return on investment. That's great. She thought use a 20-year extreme. If I use a 1-year extreme and say, hey, we've got a building number 4 here, and we're going to spend $20,000 on it, and that business lasts 1 year. Now we bring another tenant in, and he needs another $20,000 because his use is completely different from the use that we've got. You know, it seems like from a using public fund standpoint, for leasehold improvements is completely irresponsible. I don't understand that part of it at all. I totally get the facade part of it. Everybody enjoys that, looking at a main street that looks great, and I appreciate that. But my fear is that we're painting ourselves in a corner here, and we're going to end up doing things we don't necessarily want to do. Especially on the narrow use stuff, you know, when, you know, the one that was approved, and I voted for that because that's the way the rules are written right now. So I go along with that. But when you're looking at especially narrow use interior, where it's specific for one type of thing, and then if that business goes out of business, now we've got somebody come in and redo the whole thing all over again, and that money's gone, and we've gotten no return on investment. So it makes me a little bit nervous in this from a standpoint of, like I say, we're going to paint ourselves into a corner here long term in terms of how this money gets used.
Haley, I saw you come up. Did you want to respond?
That would be great. Yeah, I agree with you, Lyle. I think that's a terrible way to make decisions. But I think this started actually more as a driver of, wow, look at the facade program. It's such a success. We're matching funds, and we have people that have buy-in that want to bring things in that maybe they wouldn't if the city wasn't able to assist. We addressed a few years ago, it's not news to anybody that we have a giant population that would like to see more restaurants in town, especially more local restaurants that are unique to Marshfield, as well as a drastic need for housing in all areas. So the program was really targeting those things that we were seeing in survey results, and then of course is just absolute need for the city.
Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you. Going back to how this kind of got kicked off, if I recall correctly, it seemed to me that Mr. Bargander was kind of caught off guard initially because it was called a facade program, but they were getting funds for the interior. But then when you looked at, kind of like Lyle said, when you looked at the rules currently as they're laid out, it does cover the interior. I think some of that might just be a misnomer where it might need to get renamed. And then kind of also addressing Lyle's comments too about potentially being, you know, spending irresponsibly. I agree, that's a concern. And looking over I've seen the application, I don't have it here in the packet, but the application and then, you know, the program that was included in the packet today, I think we just need to revisit this and maybe, you know, come out with a sharper, more tight set of rules on it. Because to Tom's point, if we're going to, you know, emphasize, you know, the facade over the interior, there's nothing in here that says we should, you know, we should preference the facade over the interior. We can also put on there some sort of calculation as far as, are we getting a good enough return on investment as far as what's being done here? Similarly, in here, I'm probably nitpicking a little bit too, but, you know, we've got on here, the grant program is, et cetera, to enhance, create spaces for residential use. And then the following paragraph says ineligible properties that are only used as residential. That kind of seems contradictory. Well, and it happens, I get it. That's not what they mean, but that's what it says. So we just need to sharpen up and get that fixed. Similarly, you know, when it says buy local, it says strongly encouraged to use local contractors. Personally, I'm not entirely sure what strongly encouraged means. And this isn't something that we're trailblazers on here. There are programs out there, Buy America, Buy American, that says, you know, and that's at the federal level, but you can kind of take a hint from them or take their cue where, yeah, you should be buying, in this case, you know, American products, unless, you know, speaking to those two acts specifically, unless it's not available domestically or the cost is over 25% of what it is domestically. We could easily put something similar into that, saying, look, it has to be out of a business here in town as opposed to nearby, unless it's either not offered in town or the cost is just so much greater in town that it doesn't make sense. But I think we probably should take a look at this and consider, well, do we want to rename it? Do we want to make two programs, a facade and an interior one? And then do we want to sharpen up and tighten up the rules and the application itself?
John?
Just, if I can just briefly speak to the issue of the types of uses. Good clarification by Kaylee, and it's been touched on by others, that, the intent, as you saw in the written materials, is restaurants and I think upper level housing renovation type stuff. And I think you could look at maybe, have discussions about maybe refining what you want that to read like. I know there were questions back in May as to whether or not that business on East 4th Street, if the food service part of what was proposed there was enough to qualify as a so-called restaurant use. And I know we had debate on that. You can argue that point, but I guess the important thing is that it's not just broad-based for anything at this point. It's not like you just buy a building and then, I need to fix it up, so give me money. It's more refined than that. But looking to refine it further is always a good idea so that it accomplishes the purposes you want.
John, go ahead.
I agree entirely. Tightening up the rules around this would be, benefit everybody so that there's no ambiguity about what you're applying for and what you're getting. I will, state that as a renter in downtown, the facade program is wonderful, except that it benefits the landowner, not necessarily the business. So this type of interior funding that improves the guts of the building, and I'm talking about electrical and plumbing and things of that nature, only serve to increase the value of that building and allow it to be operational for a business in there, taking some of the risk away from the business owner because being a downtown renter is a different scenario than being a downtown landowner. It's difficult to turn a nickel in this town, and to find any assistance available is going to benefit everybody. I wish I'd known about this 5 years ago.
Russ?
I'm feeling kind of old. Kaylee, I think I was around when we had the first Main Street director back in the 80s. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's refreshing to hear the conversation, all perspectives. Lyle, good comments on, where our values are and use of money. Being a renter, that's a good perspective. I hadn't really given much thought. And always good perspective over there, Andrew. What comes to mind for me is just a grading, like a matrix. And it's similar to the housing conversation. We don't know what we want, so we don't know who we want to court as far as types of housing in Marshfield. And or we don't know what we need. So this matrix that I'm envisioning is just, outlining our goals and then putting a score to them of, let's say, 1 to 10. And when an applicant comes forward, are we looking at, for example, enhancement versus maintenance? And someone who may apply may not even qualify for the minimum that we set forward. And maybe a matrix like that exists already, I don't know, but it just would be a way to avoid some of the subjective nature of the allocation of funds. If we've got a firm idea of what we want and allocate funds accordingly. So maybe in a good year, we've got 3 applicants, and the applicants submit their applications, and without knowing the actual grading criteria that you all might use, you're checking boxes. Well, I'll give them an 8 on this and a 9 on that, and only a 1 on that. And your cumulative score is this, and therefore we support your project, or therefore we can't support your project, or to what degree we support the project. So I think it kind of ties to some of the concerns that were mentioned earlier, just a way to, take our vision, put it in the form of a measurable calculation and use the funds accordingly.
I would like to see maybe Andrew, John, and Lyle work with Kaylee to work on rewriting this a little bit and helping her tighten it up, and give more direction with it if they're interested in doing that.
And maybe it brings back something in the fall.
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
gonna make a motion to do that.
Oh, so does that mean that we're going to create a subcommittee then officially, or just
I would
a
think-
side project?
I think my preference would be that you not actually, you can make a motion, but to not actually create a committee, because
Okay.
now we're into the idea of posting agendas and all this kind of stuff. Maybe just have a couple of people from this body agree to meet on the side with Kaylee and others if necessary to review and look at possible changes to the program.
Yeah, Tom?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. There's a lot of great comments. John, I too never thought about people that rent downtown.
It's a real issue. I invested a lot of my personal funds. There is zero return on investment on.
Yeah, and not that we want to snub the owners of the buildings, but it should be the people that have the business, like yourself and others. So I think this advisory group that we're going to get would be a good thing for all the things that have been said to tighten it up a little bit, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a committee or anything. I just,
Yeah,
a
Okay,
couple of representatives are going to meet.
okay. So I make a motion to, have,
You don't really need to
No.
make the motion.
Okay.
You're just giving that direction. Just keep it under the 3-minute members, so we're not worrying about.
Yeah,
quorum
that's a
and
good point.
okay. Sounds good. Haley, you good with that? Yes, she is. We appreciate that. All right. Sounds good. Any other discussion on that? I have a hard time seeing these guys over here because they're right in line with these computers, so I apologize. Item number 12, project updates, if any.
Yeah, I'll go through, as I always put, if any, and I'll probably cover about 2/3 of the items on that list. And sometimes there's activity, sometimes there's not. TIF District 13, that's the mixed-use TIF district down on the southeast part of town along the Veterans Parkway area. We do have a developer right now looking at doing a project in that area of 21st and Washington. There was a rezoning request that went forward to the Plan Commission on July 20th. It was given a thumbs up. So it's now going to the council to go through the process. They're looking at largely single-family homes, but also some twins and a few fours on the south side, by the adjacent to the mobile home park. And so that process will continue. They're also looking for some assistance under that mixed-use TIF district for infrastructure, and that would have to be through a development agreement with the council. So that's a good prospect for us. TIF District 14 is the one we're working right now with Cedar Corp to create. It's in the area between Marwood and Fleet Farm up in that northwest part of the city on the east side of Veterans Parkway. Fairly small area, but there could be some multifamily, lower density multifamily. They're looking at possibly 2 and 3 family homes there. And so we're setting up a TIF district. We're going to capture the increment from the Quick Trip development that was built largely after January 1st of this year. So there'll be ready increment that we didn't even invest in to help fuel that project and other things in that district. So maybe I'll give a little bit more of a report when we get together next time, but that's progressing. It's timely because we need to get things wrapped up by September 30th in order to certify that for creation as of 1/1/23. Housing Committee, we do have it ready to go. I'm asking the council to appoint this committee on Tuesday, August 8th, this next meeting. It would be 2 members from this body, Mary Jo Wheeler and Ken Bargander, 2 members from the council, I believe it's Derek Werman and Ed Wagner, 2 representatives from CDA that they just recently advised me of, and I probably will be there as the person, kind of the staff person to help lead it. So once this gets approved on August 8th, we'll start that process. This is an outfall from the June 15th joint meeting of the EDB and council that agreed we need to have some people looking at this more seriously on the side and bringing forth recommendations to the EDB and the council. The Wine Brothers Shoes, I had communication with them the other day. They're still, working through their paces. They're looking at maybe getting some estimates. They're still looking at, construction in 2025. We're talking to them about some opportunities that they might have for grants. We've engaged with other agencies. I think I reported that on July 13th. So, it's kind of a hit and miss sometimes. They have their own business to run, but we're hopefully going to be able to get together to see what types of grant or loan programs might be available to them to stay here and build in our business park out in Mill Creek. Facade grant requests, we just talked about that a minute ago. There were no new applications by the July 19th deadline, so the only thing we've gotten and we've funded was the project at 113 East 4th Street. That means there's $30,000 unallocated. Not sure how you want to handle that going forward, if we want to do another round of advertising, but there were no takers in addition to the project that Karen Miller had brought forth in the spring. The Marshfield Town Center, formerly called the Marshfield Mall, I met with Ned Brickman out there a couple weeks ago. He gave me a tour of what's going on. Five Below has opened. I saw the Ross space, which is coming together nicely. They're expecting to be open by the end of fall. They're looking to be able to turn that space over to the company around the end of October, so those folks should hopefully be in before year end. And a little bit slower on the Hobby Lobby space, but they are looking at getting up and running by the first quarter sometime of 2024. Still trying to find a way to get Planet Fitness located in there, trying to work out some of those details, but things are happening, and there's a lot of good activity out there and a lot of buzz. It's nice just to see the parking lot redone. It's a huge improvement that really shows well what that's going to be someday. And then finally, the Wood County grant request we mentioned earlier, I put on your tables today the results of the SEED committee meeting. Now, again, as Tom mentioned earlier, the SEED committee recommendation now goes to the operations committee and then ultimately to the county board for final approval as part of the budget in November. But it does look favorable. There were almost $1.2 million worth of requests. We put in a couple $100,000 ourselves. The city proper, now there were other applications you'll see on that list that were put in for projects in the city that weren't put forth by the city of Marshfield. But ourselves, we put forth 8 applications totaling about $190,000, and we're recommended for funding on 6 of them, all are in part for about $110,000. So I think roughly 57% of what we asked for, the SEED committee is supportive of. And we hope to see those get to the finish line because they're good projects involving park and recreation, library, communications, engineering for the crosswalk improvement on South Central. Those would really help us a lot. So those are my updates. Questions on those items or anything else?
Any questions, Russ?
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Good report. I do have one question.
Okay.
With regard to the Weinbrenner potential opportunity. At what point will they be making a decision and degree of confidence, if you want to give me or give us a degree of confidence or anything like that?
The first question is hard to say because they're going through their paces, they're doing their due diligence. And as part of that, they've made it clear to us that they're looking at a couple of other sites elsewhere outside of Marshfield, which is not uncommon for developers. They don't necessarily focus on your one tract of land and your one potential offer. But if they are serious about starting construction in 2025, which is what I was told, again, recently, if that comes to pass, they're going to have to make some decisions soon about where they want to be. So I guess I'm hopeful that yet in calendar year 2023, they may give us an indication. What we're trying to do is continue to hold our hands to them, talk about what we might be able to do, engage other agencies, and what a collective offer maybe someday to try and locate them in our business park.
Andrew?
Following up on that, is Weinbrenner waiting for anything from us, or are we just waiting on them at this point?
No, the ball's kind of in their court at the moment, and I'm not saying that to be negative toward them. Again, they're busy running their own business, but trying to get together. Josh has been trying to set up a meeting with us and Weinbrenner representatives with some people from other agencies. WEDAC is involved. We're trying to help them identify, could there be workforce development grants or other financial resources. The goal is when we start pulling this together to ultimately look at that, plus our TIF opportunity for 2024, and come up with an actual offer where we can say, look, between us and others, here's what we think we could do to keep you in this city and growing in the business park. But right now, they're not waiting for anything from us. They recognize that the ball is at least temporarily in their court. And that's fine. I reach out to them with emails and phone calls as necessary.
Thank you.
So.
Anything else? All right.
All right.
Moving on to item 13, economic development activity updates. Any updates from anyone? Haley, that's you.
To jump off of the car show conversation that we had earlier, really, really grateful for Rodney. Obviously, he's kind of one in a million, very unique individual and able to just mobilize his family and his friends to do something that not a lot of people could do. And I know that it comes up a lot that what's going to happen if he ever really does decide to retire. And we talk with him about that every single year. So we have a really good working relationship with him and his family. I follow up with his wife with coffee after the car show, and they're really pleased with it right now. They're all tired right now because of the weekend, but they all really still love it. And they have a great group of volunteers that come back, and they're very hands-on. So if he ever did decide to step away, I'm confident that there are other people that are passionate about the project that would be able to step in and help us with that. Our $6,000 that we partner with Rodney on, that kind of wiggles a little bit every single year, just so you have an understanding. We ask every year, what can we kind of take on from you this year? Like, what's that thing that you want to put into our court? This year it was the ad show book, and we're trying to figure out how we work together to make that happen so that he can just go and work on the actual logistics, and we can help him with ads and setting that up, and then we kind of split the profit to try and cover our expenses in different ways. So there's different ways that we try and help him every year and get a better understanding of what he's doing as well. So really good relationship with the car show. Also, just want to make sure it's not missed what he said. The reason that we are able to compete almost with what Iola is doing is because we have so many supplemental activities. Hub City Days isn't just the car show, it's the car show, it's the Brew Fest, it's everything that's listed on that sheet that went around. And we have, as Main Street, a dual goal with this event. It's to be a fundraiser for Main Street, because we don't have some sort of a product that we're selling. We either have to come to boards like this, or we have to raise sponsorship and sell tickets. So we have the Brew Fest, we have the beer garden, and that is largely how we are making our income through events throughout the entire year. Things like Halloween and the Christmas stuff, that's more so to push people really into the businesses, which is the other side of Hub City Days, really giving those sales dollars and exposure to the downtown, absolutely. But that's just kind of the one chance that we have to like really drive our ticket sales, because we're so busy the rest of the year. If you have any other questions about that event, I'd be happy to answer right now.
I see the mayor in the audience, and I'm just thinking, is this an opportunity for us to recognize Rodney with some kind of plaque or certificate of some kind? Main Street mayor and chairman from EDB to sign off and bring him into the council, just to recognize his efforts.
I think that would be wonderful. He's the birth of the car show in town. We have a motion, or go ahead. Go ahead, Andy.
If we're looking for a motion for that, I will make a motion to, do we need that? No, we don't, okay. I just did have a question. I know you said, Ms. Gomez, that you work hand in hand with Rodney. Worst case scenario, he just disappears tomorrow. Are we able to pick up and run with it? I know it's not gonna be seamless, but do we know enough about the logistics and the inner workings of the car show that we could pull it off with few hitches?
Yes, I don't think that it would be to the scale that he does with all of his prizes and the different activities that he likes to do. If you heard him talk a little bit about that line item list, he tells me on a regular basis, he's like, the things that I'm really passionate about bringing and the reason that I invest from Felt's Tire is because there's things that he likes to see. He loves those veteran drawings. He loves talking to the businesses one-on-one as he's prepping and asking them about the cars that they're gonna be bringing in. That kind of stuff would probably kind of fall to the wayside a little bit unless some of his volunteers wanted to come and do that. But I think the bare bones of it would still be very doable. And we have a great contact list with his family and his friends as well. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Kaylee, I know this is always hard. Any idea of the amount of people there or the impact? This is Matt's forte probably too, is what, and it's very hard, but we got to promote. It was just busy as can be. And for marketing and stuff, we can tout that, how busy it was, and you could talk to your businesses downtown and see what kind of impact. Do you do stuff like that? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely. We have a post-event survey that we send out to all the businesses, and that gives us an idea of foot traffic and sales.
So could you do that for us as well?
And come share it, sure, yeah. I have two quotes for you that went around already. That's as far as we are. We don't have all of our expenses.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we have last year about 600 cars that were registered, which was a record for us. And Rodney thinks it was between 700 and 800 this year. And we had about 10,000 people last year, car show and all the other events combined.
Wow. Awesome. Any other discussion? All right.
Tom, I can provide some anecdotal from our business. We definitely saw an increase in foot traffic on Fridays. Friday's little pop-up event, I think that's something you can replicate fairly easily and do that 3 or 4 times during the summer. And Saturday, that the number of people that stopped in halfway through the car show and then hit the craft show and then walked back down the other side of the street, that kind of foot traffic just doesn't happen on Central Avenue that often.
And if I could, I know that it's a big boom for the downtown business, but it's a great marketing thing as well. I'm trying to get more exposure yet for you people downtown. So thank you for what you guys do.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
And we also have 2 new businesses that are downtown. We have an esthetician that will be above the Mojo's building in an office up there. And then we have Shop Avat, who is kind of an herbal kombucha coffee shop in the City Hall Plaza. And that's what I'll leave with for today. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kaylee. 14, suggested items for upcoming agendas. Does anybody have any items? Oh. Yes, of course you can. I apologize.
Thank you, Mary Jo. I'm Matt McLean with Visit Marshfield. I'm happy to be here. I want to give you guys a brief update on some activities. I do want to commend Kaylee, Nikki, and the Hub City team. Received a lot of positive feedback and comments. And I did talk to some of the hoteliers that had some of the car show people bringing their cars here that were staying overnight. The Holiday Inn did also have a large convention at the time too. So, but again, very positive impact. We featured Hub City Days as part of our summer event sweepstakes. We give away an overnight stay and gift cards to the local areas here and spend about $10,000 between web, social media, newsletter, and advertising on some of our YouTube and Spotify channels. And so we're proud to feature that as well as the Central Wisconsin State Fair. So definitely trying to showcase those events and activities to visitors, likely visitors that will come here. So that campaign is still going on. If you want to check it out, visit marshfield.com as well as our Facebook page, which we have almost 27,000 followers now. I would like to say that we got some numbers in June from the State Department of Tourism that Wood County was the 7th fastest growing direct visitor spending, with Marshfield leading the way out of 72 counties from 21 to 22. And so we did see a strong growth in that, and we're very proud of that. A couple other things I wanted to talk about. We're working with some partners with Wood County, and Discover Wisconsin has a program called Uniquely Wisconsin, and we are currently working with some video shoots to showcase our area and the county. There was just a shoot in Wisconsin Rapids for their water ski show, and now we're working on Powers Bluff to showcase a road race that's actually happening this weekend. And also some of the recreational trails down there. We see the economic development and people when they're looking to relocate as recreation, outdoor recreation is a huge thing. So we want to try to showcase that opportunity. And then also going to be working with the Makerspace, and Karen is going to be a feature piece of that episode too. And those pieces will be mostly done direct, like through kind of like YouTube channels and stuff, but they typically see 100,000 views or more with the Discover Wisconsin network. So that's a piece that we're excited about. Let me see, we are working with a new convention next year. Likely at Hotel Marshfield is kind of a land mapping. So working with some partner cities that are members of that group. So that's exciting. And then also have been talking, and we're going to do a new photo shoot next week featuring the Vanda Hay Waters as well as the American. There's a new owner named Bobbick there, and he's excited to be partners with Visit Marshfield and the Chamber. And so we're going to showcase some of the cities with a photo shoot. And yeah, that's kind of a brief update. Any questions?
Go ahead, Lyle.
Sorry, just one popped into my mind. So a year or two ago, we spent a lot of time talking actually about the youth sports industry and had a consultant. Where do we stand in it? Is that kind of dead in the water now, or where are we standing there?
Yeah, been working with some partners with the hockey group and stuff like that. I think really, I know that there's some of the changes of the land use that are being talked about. I think that's going to come through the council to see if a nonprofit group can own some of that land. And then really looking at that space, I think there's wheels in motion. Again, I think it's moving a little slower than we all would like to see, but yeah, I think the wheels are in motion for that project, and really looking at that would be a huge impact to our visitors in the wintertime, which is we usually hit 80-90% June, July, August for our hotels here with events, activities, and just Wisconsin summertime. But in the winter, looking more like the 40 or 50s, we're trying to incite ways to create winter tourism.
Thanks for the report. Good information. Are you much in the loop on the proposed expo building that we're talking about at the fairgrounds?
Yeah, I have talked with both Justin and Dale in regards to that.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to seeing some more data on the study and working with those guys.
Yeah, we had our first meeting. Tom and I sit on that committee, and we realized we're a little unsure of what the uses or needs might be. And I'd definitely be happy to get in the loop. I've had some studies, or I've learned some of that through my tourism experience of how that some of the metrics that you mentioned. I guess I would recommend staying in touch with Justin, and we're going to need that to, before we start talking about spending serious money on any kind of facility.
Sure, yeah, I'll definitely touch base with Justin on that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Anyone else with an update? I don't miss anyone. Nikki, nothing? All right. I didn't want to miss anybody. Sounds good. 14 suggested items for upcoming agendas.
I just want to add one note that really should have been on the agenda for today's meeting is the agenda for, or the budget for 2024. We'll have it on for the next meeting. In the interim, I'll probably just throw into the hopper here what we've already agreed upon with respect to the agencies, Main Street, Mackey, Wenzel Family Plazas, those things, and kind of keep it where it was last year, but we can always refine that at our September meeting. So I just want to note that that'll be on your agenda for September 7th.
Okay. Good. Next meeting, item number 15, Thursday, September 7th at 7:30 a.m. All good with that? Okay. Move to adjourn, item number 16. All right. Adjourned.